Hi, I'm April and I'm going to talk to you guys about the evolution of photographic film. But first, what exactly is photographic film? It's a material that requires a chemical reaction between light, the speed shutter of a camera, and a kind of gelatinous emulsion that helps record a lasting image over time. The flexible and portable photographic film that we kind of know of today was created by American entrepreneur George Eastman in 1884. Now, Eastman's creation has had a lasting effect on American culture, but this complex material has undergone many versions throughout history and around the world. Starting in 1727, a German doctor named Johann Heinrich Schultz was the first to find that when chalk, silver, and nitric acid were together in a clear bottle, and say you put like an image, like a leaf, on top of that clear bottle and then expose it to light, that leaf can be seen in the liquid inside the bottle. Then in 1839, French painter Louis Daguerre used light exposure, liquid iodine, and a silver copper plate to create the daguerreotype. Now, this is when we started seeing a lot of those images that we see in history during the Civil War. There were some other little variations of daguerreotype that people tried to recreate that were a little bit more cheaper, and they thought that would be easier to use, known as the tintype, but those didn't last very long and the imagery wasn't that great. In 1841, William Henry Fox Talbot, an English archaeologist, created this new process that was a little different from daguerreotypes, where instead of being printed on a silver copper plate, he used a paper base. Talbot's creation was known as calotypes. And this made it possible for images to be printed multiple times, say like for newspapers. The only issue with this was the more times it was printed, the less detail started showing up. We started seeing more detail in like the fine lines of paper instead of actually any detail in the image. So that's when we have a new creation in 1871 from R.L. Maddox. He decided to try the dry plate process. This is a combination of that gelatinous emulsions made from, dried out animal bones, and then also glass plates. This made it possible to take an image, capture it on the glass plate. It stays dry. You can take those off location, store them for however long you want, and then re-wet them when you're ready to print it out. So you can make multiple copies of it and the image never loses its definition and fine detail. Then in 1884, George Eastman took the concept of Talbot's paper base and also Maddox's dry plate process, and he created photographic film, making it a lot more flexible and portable, able to fit inside of a camera, and essentially changing the game of photography and making it more convenient. And just 4 short years later, in 1888, Eastman's dry plate and film company would later become known as Kodak, which would become an American household name. Eastman made the first Kodak film that same year, and it was available for mass production. So it really changed American culture, and amateur photographers were spread all over the country. They were able to get 100 captures out of one roll of film. They would ship that camera and the roll off to Rochester, New York. That's where Kodak was. Kodak would change out the roll of film in the camera, ship it back to the owner, and the owner can go ahead and get started taking new photos while they were waiting for their previous film roll to get processed and the pictures to get mailed back to them. So this really changed the game for photography and made it way more convenient, put it in the hands of the American people. And so it just changed the whole process completely. Cameras were a lot more smaller then, since the photographic film was much more smaller. And it just made a lasting imprint on American culture. Next, Leslie's going to go ahead and talk to us about the STEM connection and photographic film.